The waitress who saved a Hell's Angel. Don't go. They're outside waiting for you. Sarah Bennett said it without looking up, her fingers steady as she adjusted the collar on Cole Reaper Morrison's leather vest. He went still. She stepped back, smoothing the leather once more, giving him the smallest nod. Her shift was finished. The warning had been delivered. Cole didn't ask questions. He didn't raise his voice. "Lock the doors," he said calmly, eyes fixed ahead, "and call Danny, now." A young waitress froze near the kitchen. "You heard me." Cole turned toward the back office. After 2 steps, he stopped and looked back at Sarah. "My office," he said. "Now." Her heart was already pounding by the time she followed him. Only an hour earlier, Sarah had been wiping down tables in the corner booth, moving quietly as she always did. 6 months working at Rusty's Roadhouse had taught her one thing above all else. Silence kept you invisible, and invisibility kept you safe. That was when she saw them. 3 men. Leather jackets, but not Hell's Angels patches. Different colors. Rival club. They weren't supposed to be here, especially not on a Wednesday night when Cole's crew owned this territory. Sarah slowed, instincts flaring. The men sat near the window, nursing beers they barely touched, eyes locked on the back corner where Cole sat with his club brothers. They weren't here to drink. They were here to watch. Her chest tightened. Cole was meticulous about territory, about respect, about boundaries. No rival club came this close without permission. Not unless they wanted war. She should have turned back. Should have minded her business. Instead, she stepped closer to their table, refilling water glasses she'd already filled twice. That's when she heard it. 20 minutes, one of them muttered. The second he walks out, we move. Another one grinned. Boss wants him bleeding, not dead, not yet. The third man pulled back his jacket just enough. Sarah caught the glint of a blade tucked into his waistband. Her breath caught. She set the pitcher down too hard, and all 3 men turned to look at her. "You good?" one asked, eyes narrowing. "Fine," Sarah said quickly, forcing a smile. "Just clumsy." The man studied her for a beat too long, then turned back to his beer. Sarah's hands trembled as she walked back to the bar. She should tell Cole. But how? Walk up to a Hell's Angel in front of his crew and whisper about an ambush? They'd either think she was paranoid or worse, involved. But she couldn't do nothing. So she waited. By 9:47 p.m., Cole stood up, stretching his shoulders. His crew followed suit, laughing, slapping backs, the easy camaraderie of men who'd bled together. Sarah's pulse spiked. He was leaving. She grabbed a rag and moved toward the door, pretending to wipe down the coat rack near the exit. As Cole reached for his vest hanging on the hook, she stepped in front of him. "Sir," she said, softly. "Your vest." He paused, confused. "It's fine." "No," she insisted, reaching up to adjust the collar. "It's crooked." Cole allowed it, distracted, already thinking about the road, the ride home, the quiet of the desert. That was when she leaned in and whispered the words that changed everything. "Don't go. They're outside waiting for you." Now in his office, Cole closed the door behind them. "Start from the beginning," he said. Sarah did. Briefly, clearly, no dramatics. She described seeing the men, the conversation she overheard, the blade, the timeline. She did not exaggerate. She didn't need to. Cole listened without interrupting, his expression darkening, not with anger but with calculation. When she finished, he was silent for a long moment. "You're certain?" he said finally. "Yes." Another pause. "You understand what you're accusing them of?" "Yes." "And you still chose to warn me?" "Yes." That seemed to settle something. He nodded once. A knock came at the door. Danny, Cole's second-in-command, entered, already tense. "Boss, we got 3 Vipers sitting out front, armed, waiting." Cole exhaled slowly. "I know." Danny glanced at Sarah, curiosity flickering in his eyes. Cole followed his gaze. "She saved my life," he said simply. Danny's expression shifted. Respect, then understanding. He nodded and left them alone again. Cole turned back to Sarah. "You shouldn't have had to handle that," he said. "I'm fine," she said, though her hands still trembled. "No," he replied quietly. "You're not. And neither is this place, apparently." He studied her as if seeing her for the first time. Not as a waitress, not as background, as someone who noticed things others missed. "I want you with me today," he said. "With you?" She hesitated. "I just serve drinks." "Today," he said, "you watched men prepare to kill me and found a way to stop them without being seen. That's not serving drinks. That's survival instinct." Sarah met his eyes. For the first time since she'd overheard that conversation, she felt something other than fear. Resolve. "All right," she said. "But if I come, I tell you what I see, even if you don't like it." A corner of his mouth lifted. "Deal." As she left the office, Sarah realized something else had shifted. Something quieter, but just as dangerous. She was no longer invisible. And once seen, there was no going back. The black Harley rumbled in the parking lot, its engine idling low like a growl beneath the desert wind. Sarah stood at the side door beside Cole, not in her waitress uniform, but in a borrowed leather jacket that belonged to one of the club's old ladies. It fit surprisingly well. She looked like she belonged. She didn't feel like it. Cole adjusted his gloves, then glanced at her. "You ready?" Sarah nodded. "As I'll ever be." The ride was silent at first. Danny led the way on his bike, 3 other club members flanking them on either side. The desert stretched out endlessly, rocks and scrub brush painted orange by the setting sun. Sarah had never been this close to power before. Not wealth. Power. The kind that came from loyalty, from blood, from brotherhood. And now she sat behind the man who commanded it because he believed she saw something he didn't. "What are we walking into?" she asked softly over the wind. Cole didn't turn. "A meeting. The Vipers want to negotiate territory. I'm supposed to listen." "But you think they're planning something else?" "I think nothing happens in isolation," he said. "They've been testing boundaries for months, pushing into our bars, our streets. This ambush wasn't random. So why go today?" He finally glanced back at her. "Because sometimes showing up is the loudest warning." They pulled up to an abandoned warehouse on the edge of town. No police, no witnesses, just business. Security stood at the entrance, Vipers, all of them, watching with cold eyes as Cole's crew dismounted. Inside, the air was thick with tension. The warehouse was mostly empty, except for a long metal table in the center. Around it sat 5 men, all wearing Viper patches. At the head of the table sat their president, a man named Trevor. Gray beard, scarred knuckles, eyes that had seen too much and felt too little. He stood when Cole entered. Some smiled. Some didn't. "Cole," Trevor said, his tone neutral. "Glad you could make it." "Let's get this over with," Cole replied. Introductions were brief. Sarah remained silent, seated behind Cole and slightly to the left. They didn't ask who she was. They assumed she was just another club associate. That was good. The Vipers laid out their proposal. They wanted access to 3 bars in Cole's territory. In exchange, they'd stay out of the east side completely. It sounded reasonable. Too reasonable. Sarah watched Trevor closely. His hands never stopped moving, adjusting his rings, tapping the table, scratching his beard. His voice was calm, but his body wasn't. When Cole mentioned the ambush outside Rusty's, Trevor's jaw tightened, just for a second. Then he laughed. "That wasn't us," he said. "Rogue members, already dealt with." "He's lying," Sarah whispered. Cole didn't react, but his hand shifted, fingers tapping once against the table, his signal that he'd heard her. 10 minutes later, when the Vipers started discussing protection fees, Trevor steered the conversation toward a new revenue model. Quick, aggressive. Cole interrupted him. "Transparency, Trevor. That's what I'm interested in." The room went quiet for a beat too long. Trevor forced a smile. "Of course. No secrets here." Sarah leaned slightly closer to Cole and murmured, "His VP keeps checking his phone, and there's a duffel bag under the table near his feet." Cole nodded once, then addressed the room. "Gentlemen, before we move forward, I'll need to check the room. Standard protocol given recent events." It wasn't standard, and everyone knew it. But no one objected. Cole gestured. Danny entered with a detection device. Within minutes, they found it. A concealed recording device taped under the table, and in the duffel bag, 3 unregistered firearms. Trevor went pale. The others went silent. Cole stood slowly. His voice, when it came, was soft but deadly. "Anyone who thinks they can set me up in my own territory will find themselves not only out of business, but buried in the desert before sunrise." No one dared speak. Cole turned to Sarah. "Thank you," he said clearly, loud enough for everyone to hear. They left without another word. "Back at the clubhouse," Sarah finally breathed. Cole looked at her. "That was impressive." "I just watched," she said. "No," he replied. "You saw." Outside, the desert stretched on endlessly, but Sarah knew something had shifted. She wasn't just a witness anymore. She was part of the game, and now the stakes were higher. The clubhouse was different at night. The neon Budweiser sign buzzed softly in the window, casting red and blue shadows across worn leather couches and poker tables scarred with decades of cigarette burns. The air smelled of motor oil, whiskey, and brotherhood. Sarah sat at the bar, hands wrapped around a glass of water she hadn't touched. Her mind replayed the warehouse meeting on a loop. The tension, the lies, the weapons hidden in plain sight. She'd walked into something far bigger than a shift at Rusty's Roadhouse. Cole emerged from the back room, sleeves rolled up, exhaustion etched into the lines of his face. He poured himself 2 fingers of bourbon and sat beside her. "You handled yourself well today," he said. Sarah didn't look at him. "I shouldn't have been there." "But you were, and because of that, we're not burying bodies tonight." She finally turned. "You really think they would have killed you?" Cole took a slow sip. "Trevor's been planning a takeover for months. We've heard whispers. Tonight was supposed to be the excuse. Provoke me, record it, claim self-defense when they took me out." "Then why did they let you leave?" "Because you made them visible," Cole said. "The second we found that recorder, they lost their leverage. Now they know we're watching." Silence stretched between them. "What happens next?" Sarah asked. Cole set down his glass. "War or negotiation. Depends on how stupid Trevor wants to be." The following morning, Sarah returned to Rusty's for her regular shift. The diner felt smaller now, the walls closer, the conversations quieter. She moved through her routine, coffee refills, pancake orders, forced smiles, but her mind was elsewhere. That was when she saw him. A man in the corner booth, mid-40s, clean cut, wearing a polo shirt and khakis. He didn't belong here. Sarah slowed, instincts flaring. He wasn't a biker, wasn't a trucker. and he'd been sitting there for an hour without ordering food. Just coffee. And he kept glancing at his phone. She approached cautiously. Need anything else? The man looked up, smiled. I'm good, just waiting for someone. Sarah nodded and walked back to the bar. But she memorized his face. The way he sat. The bulge under his jacket, too square to be a wallet. When her break came, she stepped outside and called Cole. There's someone watching the diner, she said. Doesn't feel right. Stay inside, Cole replied immediately. I'm sending Danny. 20 minutes later, Danny pulled up on his bike. He walked into the diner, ordered a burger, and sat 2 booths away from the man. The man's phone buzzed. He stood, left cash on the table, and walked out without a word. Danny followed. That evening, Cole called Sarah to the clubhouse again. Inside, Danny stood beside a laptop, pulling up surveillance footage. That guy you flagged? Danny said. Private investigator. Works for a firm out of Phoenix. Guess who hired them? Sarah's stomach dropped. Trevor. No, Cole said. Worse, a lawyer named Richard Foster. He represents half the cartels in the Southwest. Sarah frowned. Why would a cartel care about a biker club? Because we're not just a club, Cole said quietly. We control routes, supply chains, information. If the Vipers take us out, they inherit all of it. And if Foster is involved, it means someone bigger is pulling strings. Sarah sat down slowly. You're saying this isn't about territory. It's about something else. Cole nodded. And you just became the only person outside this club who knows. 2 nights later, Sarah was closing up Rusty's when the lights went out. She froze, heart hammering. The emergency exit sign glowed red in the darkness. She could hear her own breathing. Then footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Sarah Bennett, a voice called from the shadows. We need to talk. She reached for the knife she kept behind the bar. Who are you? A figure stepped into the dim light. It was Trevor. Relax, he said, hands raised. I'm not here to hurt you. Then why are you here? Trevor leaned against a booth. Because you're smart, smarter than Cole gives you credit for. Sarah didn't lower the knife. Get to the point. The point, Trevor said, is that Cole's going to get you killed. You think you're helping him, but you're just a pawn. And when this war starts, pawns don't survive. Is that a threat? It's a warning. Trevor straightened. Walk away now. Go back to pouring coffee. Forget everything you saw. Sarah stepped closer, knife steady. And if I don't? Trevor's smile faded. Then you'll wish you had. He turned and walked out, disappearing into the night. Sarah stood there for a long moment, breathing hard, replaying his words. Then she locked the door, grabbed her phone, and called Cole. We need to talk, she said. Now. An hour later, Sarah sat across from Cole in his private office at the clubhouse. The walls were lined with photographs, fallen brothers, old rides, memories carved in leather and chrome. He came to threaten you, Cole said, voice tight with controlled anger. No, Sarah corrected. He came to scare me. There's a difference. Cole leaned back. And? Are you scared? Sarah met his eyes. Terrified, but I'm not running. Something shifted in Cole's expression. Respect. Maybe more. Why? He asked quietly. Because, Sarah said, I've spent my whole life invisible. People like me, we clean up after people like you. We serve, we stay quiet. And when things go bad, we disappear. She stood, pacing. But I saw something, and for once, someone listened. You didn't dismiss me, didn't tell me to stay in my lane. You trusted me. Cole watched her carefully. So if Trevor thinks I'm going to run because he showed up in the dark, Sarah continued, he doesn't know me at all. Cole stood, walked to the window. Outside, the desert stretched endlessly under a sky full of stars. "This won't end clean," he said. "I know. People will get hurt." "I know that too." He turned back to her. "Then you need to understand something. Once you're in this, you don't get out. Not without consequences." Sarah nodded slowly. "Then teach me how to survive it." Cole studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled a drawer open and set a small handgun on the desk. "Tomorrow," he said, "we start your training." The weeks that followed were a blur. Sarah learned to shoot, to watch exits, to read body language like a second language. Danny taught her how to spot surveillance. One of the old ladies showed her how to carry a weapon without anyone noticing. But the most important lesson came from Cole. "Power," he said one night, "isn't about who's loudest. It's about who's still standing when the noise stops." Sarah absorbed it all, and slowly she stopped being afraid. She became something else. Prepared. The final confrontation came on a Friday night. The Vipers made their move, a coordinated hit on 3 of Cole's operations. Bars were vandalized. Bikes were torched. One of Cole's crew ended up in the hospital. It was war. Cole called a meeting. His entire club gathered in the warehouse. 20 men, all armed, all ready. But Sarah had a different idea. "What if we don't fight them?" she said. Everyone turned. "What if we expose them instead?" Cole frowned. "Explain." Sarah pulled out her phone. "I've been tracking Foster's movements. He meets with Trevor every Tuesday at a motel outside Tucson. If we record that meeting, we prove the cartel connection. Then we don't just beat the Vipers, we bury them." Silence. Then Danny grinned. "I like her." Cole looked at Sarah for a long moment. Then he nodded. "All right, we do it your way." The operation was surgical. Sarah wore a wire. She walked into the motel, posing as a cleaner, and planted a recording device in the room where Foster and Trevor met. The conversation they captured was damning. Cartel money, drug routes, plans to eliminate Cole and take over the entire Southwest pipeline. Cole handed the recordings to the FBI. Within 48 hours, both Foster and Trevor were in federal custody. The war ended without a single shot fired. Months later, Sarah stood behind the bar at Rusty's, pouring coffee like she always had. But she wasn't the same. Cole walked in, sat at the counter, and smiled. "You miss it?" Sarah shrugged. "Sometimes, but I like it here. Quiet." "Quiet's good," Cole agreed. They sat in comfortable silence. Then Sarah leaned over. "You ever think about how different things would have been if I'd just kept my mouth shut that night?" Cole met her eyes. "Every day. And every day I'm grateful you didn't." Sarah smiled. "Me too." Outside, the desert wind whispered through the parking lot. The neon sign buzzed. Life went on. But Sarah Bennett was no longer invisible. And that made all the difference.